Hi, my name's Lisa, and the purpose of this video is to give you everything that I've learned about decompression sickness firsthand. I've been diving for about 10 years, and a bunch of us went to Belize last week and did some great diving, saw some great things on the reef, killed a whole bunch of lionfish. We did 4 dives. We had our acceptable surface interval times in between. Our dive masters were awesome. The only problem that I had was on the very first dive, my safety stop coming up was not nearly as good as it should be. I didn't have enough weights to keep me down. But I went back down and kind of hovered there a little bit, went back up, felt nothing, no problem. Went and did the other dives again. Our surface intervals were great. I had no problems with my safety stops. And for those of you who don't know what a safety stop is, when you are diving, you need to kind of hover at 15 feet underneath the water for 3 minutes before surfacing all the way up to make sure that the nitrogen bubbles that are in your system have ample time to get all the way out and dispel it, the way it's supposed to. The fourth dive of the day, much later that day, we went down about 80 feet. I was only down there for maybe a minute or two. That was when I shot my first lionfish. And then came back up and stayed right at 60 feet. Like I said, I had no problem with my safety stop on the way back up on the fourth dive. We got out of the water about 4:15, 4:30, came back to the resort, got ready for dinner, and as we were getting ready for dinner, I got some real fuzziness in my eyesight, very similar to an aura migraine, which I get frequently, so I didn't think anything of it. The vision loss was a little bit different than it was before, because normally with an aura migraine, I would lose peripheral vision, and then it comes back in a half hour to 45 minutes. This time I just kind of lost it altogether. I just had one pinpoint focal spot that I could see, but then 45 minutes later, it was fine. So while sitting at dinner, and now I'm within about an hour after getting out of the water on the fourth dive, sitting there at dinner, I felt like the side of my chest was bruised, like there was something poking into it. I went in the bathroom and took a look, and I really expected to see a big black and blue mark, and there wasn't anything there. So I went back to dinner. We ate some of the lionfish, which was delicious, by the way. And then I just started feeling funny. I felt real pinpricks and almost like there were a whole bunch of fire ant bites across my chest. So I went back to the room just to lay down. Didn't really know what it was. It was just that I felt off, is the best way I can describe it. While I was laying there, things just kept getting progressively worse. And now I felt like I was bruised all across my chest, on the backs of both arms, down the middle of my stomach, and on the backs of both thighs. But every time I went to look in the mirror, there was nothing there. So I was really thinking I was starting to lose my mind. My husband came up. I told him I was really concerned because it wasn't right. I couldn't get comfortable, and then the pain started getting increasingly worse. A lot of pressure, a lot of pinpricks. So he called John Belinsky, who happens to be right there at the resort with us. And John came up and did a full assessment and checked some things in my abdomen area, which were really, really tender. But again, there was no skin discolorations or anything. So during this time, my husband had also gone and gotten the resort staff, and they called the local doctor who came in, and she came in and did a full assessment. Again, everything was just getting worse, and I couldn't get comfortable. Then I started vomiting, and so the doc came up, and she, after her assessment and with talking to John, thought that I had gallstones. So she gave me an injection for pain. She gave me an anti-nausea medicine and an antispasmodic medicine. As she was getting ready to leave, I went and looked in the mirror again because I just couldn't believe that there was no bruising. It's just what it felt like somebody had hit me with a baseball bat. So I went and looked in the mirror, and at that time there was full skin discoloration, kind of like reddish bruises. Every place that I had hurt was now skin discoloration. At the same time, the doctor got a phone call and had to leave for her next appointment. So John, took a look at it and kind of reevaluated and was very honest and said, I've got nothing. I have no idea what this is. And so John and my husband were talking, and in their conversations, it came up that every place I said that it hurt before is where the bruising was. And could it have something to do with the nitrogen? Could I have had issues off gassing? So fortunately, John had his laptop with him and went to research exactly what it was. And sure enough, 5 minutes later, he came back up and definitely had the diagnosis that it looks like decompression sickness. All the symptoms are exactly what what his research came up to show that it would be. So he followed protocol in there as far as the angle of my bed and how I should be laying. And at the same time, the nighttime manager was coming on duty. And fortunately, she had had decompression sickness before. So she knew within 2 minutes exactly what it was. They went and got me on oxygen, and then started making plans to get me into a decompression chamber the next day. Now, within an hour, I was feeling great. I stopped throwing up. The pain had subsided substantially. So she didn't feel like it was a life or death situation at that point, that they had to air flight me out that night and that it could wait until the next morning, but that I didn't have any choice. So I'm really glad that she had been through it before. And she explained, the oxygen does make you feel so much better, but you have to get rid of the nitrogen. So the next day, the resort took me to the airport. We got on a plane, flew very low to San Pedro, which is where the closest decompression chamber was. And the doctor there did a full evaluation and said, yep, it's definitely decompression sickness, which is also known as the bends, and that I'd have to go into the decompression chamber. So the decompression chamber, for anybody who's claustrophobic, has its own set of issues and problems. But I did. I went in there. I was in there for a total of 4 hours, where they continued to bring the atmospheric pressure down to where I was and then slowly bring me back up, all the while still keeping the oxygen on me. And then after 4 hours, I was fine. So some things that I have learned in here and through this experience is, first of all, if you have any issues or problems when you're diving, make sure your dive master knows. Because even though it seems like it's not a problem right now, it could be something. And if the dive master had known, then perhaps he would have made sure that I didn't go so deep on the 4th dive, or that I had longer intervals in between. So definitely let your dive master know. I also learned that being nauseous doesn't necessarily mean sweaty and dizzy, which is what I thought it meant, and I told the doctor I was not nauseous, because nauseous just means throwing up. So definitely learned some important things here. And then the other thing too that I learned is not to tell the medical professional what it is that's wrong with you. When the staff got involved, everybody was proceeding forward as if I had had an allergic reaction to the lionfish. And I don't remember if I said that or if one of the staff said that, but that was the first thought. And even when they went to go get John, they said, you need to come on because Lisa's having an allergic reaction. So don't ever tell the medical professional what you have. That's what they're there for. And it ended up being a great vacation, even though after the decompression chamber, I was not allowed to dive, fly, be in the sun, eat spicy food, get a massage, or drink any alcohol. So make sure that you have a backup plan, because you never know what can happen.